Hi everyone. I was intending to do a walk back home at my beach in Copenhagen, but the whole family caught a cold last week, so that didn't happen. And as it's turned out, I'm actually in a place this week that is actually a much better place for making the point that I wanted to share in this walk today. I'm taking a course this week, and I'll make a separate video about some of the learnings I have from that, but this course takes place at the Lego Hotel at the original Legoland, the very first one in Jutland here in Denmark. Now, bear with me, I'll explain in a minute how that relates to the topic of today. But first, the topic, and that is recruitment, which is actually something that the Self-Storage Association in the UK made a post about on LinkedIn not too long ago. That recruitment is apparently one of the top challenges that self-storage operators face when asked. And that sort of really confirmed my experience, which is that it's actually quite tricky in self-storage to work out who's going to perform well over time, at least in kind of the traditional model of self-storage where there are people at each of our sites. We want someone who's a killer salesperson, a really organized admin person, someone who doesn't mind cleaning the toilets if they have to. But most importantly, we want them to do all of those things really excellently, and we want them to do it well over time while they're working in an environment in a very, very small team, or even alone most of the time. Now, it's hard enough to find someone who can be good at doing sort of the entire customer life cycle. But that task doesn't really get easier when we add in the fact that they also need to be very self-motivating in doing all of that. They need to keep their steam and their motivation and their performance up over time in an environment where there isn't much in their sort of direct external environment that really feeds that, if that makes sense. Now, what I'm saying here isn't really anything new that anyone who is recruited for self-storage jobs hasn't experienced before. The reflection I want to share is sort of a quick tip about something practical we can do to factor this in when we're recruiting new team members for our teams. And that tip is about when you look through someone's CV, right at the start of the selection process, to not just look at what kind of roles have people had before, but to pay just as much attention to what kind of environment have they worked in. And this is where the Lego Hotel is the perfect setting to record this video in, because this is actually a very visual environment change to any other walk that I've ever done. But going back to the selection process, has our candidate been in a fast-paced, busy environment with lots of people constantly? Has our candidate been in a large open-plan office environment where there's always someone to talk to and chat to and catch up with at the water cooler or the coffee machine? Is it someone who's worked completely independently, hasn't been a part of a team at all? When we pay as much attention to their background and their personality as we pay to the environment that they've been in, and the environment that they seem to be most comfortable in, then we run a much larger chance of finding a candidate who's likely to thrive in our sites, not just for a few months, but to thrive consistently over time. Now, of course, when we're dealing with people, it's an art and not a science. So, of course, there are exceptions to this. That's something that I have to mention. But I hope you get my point. My point is that in self-storage, we need to be unusually aware of our candidates' previous work environment in order to understand if we think that they could thrive in a self-storage site. So if you aren't already, I would encourage you to look at your recruitment practices. Ask yourself, how much emphasis are you placing on the environment? Is there somewhere it could play a more central role? I am going to, before I finish off for today, show you the most impressive part of Lego that I have ever seen in my life before I finish off for today, and that is this dragon. Take a look at this. This is a dragon made entirely out of Legos. It is absolutely huge. So I'm going to get back away from this dragon. I wish you all a great evening wherever you are, and I will see you on my next self-storage walk.